Thank you for watching. Today we're taking a look at the PROLINE Pro MT 4x4, which is a 1/10 scale 4-wheel drive monster truck pre-built roller. You may be familiar with the previous PROLINE Pro MT. That was a 2-wheel drive 10 scale monster truck. Really cool basher, but this one is revolutionary in many ways. I think the biggest thing is that you actually will find that you can fit 8 scale electronics in this thing. So all of the running gear, the complete drivetrain is Mod 1, which is basically 8 scale race buggy spec'd. So they really did their best to beef this thing up to basically a whole new level. This is unheard of. In the 10 scale platform, such a small footprint, have Mod 1 gears, have 8 scale running gears, have oversized bearings, absolutely everything, 17mm wheel hexes, 16mm big bore shocks, you name it. But we will get into that a tiny bit later. Let's look at the box first. Well, as always, box art from PROLINE looks phenomenal. Really like what they did with that painted body over here. As you can tell, you get that Sentinel body with the pre-built truck. There are plenty of body options out. I think some of them are actually displayed on the box. So over here you see that you can also get a Chevy Silverado body or a 2017 Ford F-150 body, and there's plenty more options because basically anything that is produced for the Stampede or for the Pro MT previously can be adapted and made to fit on this chassis. This chassis was introduced earlier in October. I think it is one of the most important basher releases of the year, seeing that it is 10 scale, but also that it packs all of this 8 scale running gear. Means that you can really beat the absolute piss out of it without having to worry that you're going to break anything anytime soon. PROLINE introduced this truck at their own event, which was called Monster Truck Palooza, which they held in Banning, California, right next to the headquarters. A lot of people got invited to witness the unveiling of this Pro MT 4x4, and from what I've seen so far, the people who already have their hands on a Pro MT 4x4, they've been having a blast with it. Let me take it out of the box and show you what you get inside. Well, I took the wheels out of the bag. I also took the body out of the bag. This is a pre-cut Sentinel body, very thick Lexan. I have painted one of these up before. Then as well, I was really surprised to see how thick the Lexan actually is. So this is going to really stand up to a lot of abuse. You will also find these PROLINE screw caps, whatever you want to call them, these body hold downs. I really like these. I also use them on some of my crawlers, believe it or not, just because they really eliminate all of the body rattle. Now, in a setup like this, it's of course crucial to really keep that body on there. If you would use conventional body pins, you risk pulling the pins through the shell at some point. Not that that's going to happen really fast with this thicker Lexan, but it is nice to see this included. These are MX-28 Badlands mounted on F11 wheels. This is not a design that I'm unfamiliar with. I really like the look of these F11s. I think it goes well with a little basher like this. Let's put it aside for now. Let's see what else you get inside the box. You get some window masks. So if you want to paint the thing up real quick, one color, you can just go ahead and do that. There's a labeling correction. This has everything to do with some of the inserts that you use to space out your motor mount to get the correct gear mesh. So do make sure that you actually have a look at this before you perhaps make like a meshing error and end up ruining your spur gear, because that's really a bad way to start off with running a truck. Some additional shock pistons, some servo horns, a couple of tools, a pinion gear, and some other tiny knickknacks. And that's anything that you need anytime soon, apart from of course the pinion gear. Really clear manual. So in here as well, here it says that all that stuff about the tabs that you need to insert in the chassis with then the mesh. That's also where that correcting label comes from. Gives you a real clear overview of all of the parts of the truck. In case you do bust something, then well, it's pretty easy to find the part number, track it down, and order a replacement in case you need to. Not that I think that that's going to happen anytime soon, because basically everything inside this truck is completely overdimensioned. You also get some electronics suggestions. So, well, they say, you know, this is an 8-scale system, you don't have to worry about it at all. Now, let's take the body off and let's have a look at the main event, which is the chassis. I'm so excited to finally have my hands on one of these. I've been basically eyeballing them ever since they got announced, just because I know that it's a very nimble car. I know that you can drop a wide variety of electronics in here, and I know that you can really get it up to speed, get some great agility out of it in air as well, and it's basically a very acrobatic truck. Now let's start from the front. Great quality plastics as per usual. So you'll find a front bumper pretty similar to the rear bumper that wraps around the chassis, gives it some additional protection. You will also see that the A-arms are pretty much closed up, so they're almost a solid design. And then they end up in like a pivot ball system. So pivot ball suspension is something that you may be familiar with if you have some of the larger 8-scale trucks, bashing trucks, such as for example Arma Nero, Arma Phaeton, I believe Arma Kraton as well features suspension like this. This makes for some really smooth, not just suspension action, but also turning action over here in the front. You will see that there's like a bell crank system that's very similar to what you would find on an 8-scale buggy. An aluminum servo saver, and then connecting up to 2 pivoting points, leading up to some well, stout looking turnbuckles. And then of course over here your hookup for your servo. None of the electronics are included. That's of course not a surprise. It is pre-built, but it is a roller, so you will need to supply your own receiver, your own ESC, your own steering servo, and your own motor. But that just makes it, I think, a whole lot more fun, because I always like to replace it with my preferred brands anyway. Top A-arms as well, they look really nice. There's some insert tabs that hold the hinge pins in place, so you can also play around with that a tiny bit for your toe in and toe out. They actually lock into some CNC machined hinge pin carriers. So those lock into your front bulkhead. Now, if you do want to have diff access to those Mod 1 gears, it's pretty simple. You remove the front bumper, take the diff cover off, and you will be able to get inside and inspect or service those diffs, change out the diff fluids, whatever you want to do. Same goes for the center diff, 4 screws on the top, and you can lift the entire unit out, service it, or replace the fluids. Back, same situation, take the rear bumper off, take the cover off, and you're on the inside. Another pretty interesting feature, I think, is a pre-installed sway bar. Everything that's aluminum on this truck, by the way, is anodized in a really nice, cool gunmetal color. 16mm big bore shocks, that's the same dimension shock that you would find on an 8-scale racing buggy. Delrin pistons, chrome-plated shock shaft. Everything feels super smooth. The anodization and the finish on these shock bodies is well, simply amazing. So they're aluminum bodied shocks with plastic caps, but everything looks so extremely over-dimensioned and so beefy that I have no doubt that these are going to hold up. In the front you will see that there's a universal drive shaft going on to the wheels. That goes for the back as well, so there's a regular dog bone setup towards the center, and then on the out drives you will find that there is a CVD. Again, everything looks over-dimensioned, and it's pretty much crazy what they did over here in terms of engineering. An easy part to overlook is this chassis. At first glance you would think that it's just like a regular aluminum chassis. That's not the case. All of the hardware is countersunk. Over here you see those tabs where you would also find that additional piece with that tiny correction. This is not just an aluminum chassis. There's a spine going on from the center diff. If you have a close look over here, from the center diff all the way to the back, there's a steel plate, a steel spine that is slotted together with that aluminum chassis just to make it ultra rigid. This of course is something that I think hasn't been done before. So you can actually mount an 8-scale motor and an 8-scale ESC in this truck if you want to go that route. You can power it up to 4S. I think you can even power it up to 6S if you want to try that out. Plenty of room to mount a battery, some Velcro battery straps. Very easy to adjust if you want to run, for example, 2, 3 or 4S or maybe even 6S. You can just go ahead and do that. I know that PROLINE doesn't recommend driving it on 6S, but I think that there's a lot of people who will actually give it a try. The servo tray looks nice. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to run yet, but I'm thinking that I'm going to perhaps try another ProTech servo. I installed one of those in my HPI Venture recently, and I really like the way it performs and looks. So I'm thinking that that will be a really good option to try this Pro MT 4x4 as well. ESC wise, I'm thinking of perhaps going with another Mamba X, but this time I'm going to combine it with either a 1512 motor or a 1515, and then whether I end up using an 1800, a 2200 or a 2650 kV motor, that remains to be seen. Overall, I'm super excited to see this thing over there. I'm really keen to get it painted up and also to start bashing with it. It has, well, I have absolutely no doubt that this will hold up to a ton of abuse, that it will be a very agile truck in the air as well, that it will make for some great acrobatic action and also some good videos. I love the finish on everything, even everything down to these rock guards where you see those Pro MT logos, the 4x4 and PROLINE logo. Everything is like embossed and it just looks super dope. All of that being said, if you are looking maybe for a truck like this and you find yourself on the PROLINE Racing website, do not forget to use the code HemiStorm10 if you stuck it out until right now watching this video. More power to you, but you can pass that code around to your friends as well. So again, that's HemiStorm10 for an additional 10% discount. I believe that current pricing of these trucks lies around 440 bucks, so using the code will bring it right under the $400 mark, which I think for a truck of this stature and with all these specs is absolutely one hell of a smoking deal. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, because I can imagine that I skipped something, that I overlooked something, leave them in the box below. I will do my very best to answer them. If you want to, I don't know, see perhaps a specific color scheme on this truck, let me know as well, because I'm always open to suggestions. If you want to be ahead of what I'm doing over here on YouTube, check me out on Facebook and Instagram. Links are also in the video description. And of course also a link to the PROLINE Pro MT 4x4. More information on the PROLINE Racing website. They have some excellent pictures going on as well. And there's even a Facebook page that I will also link, Pro MT 4x4 owners, where people are posting already some crazy antics of them driving their 4x4s and having some great fun with it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button. If you're not subscribed yet, please do. It's free and it will always be free, and I hope to see you around in the next one. Bye bye.
Back on.